Hey, good morning. I started this few minutes early just to check if everything is okay. I see people are joining, so that's perfect. I'll be perfectly honest, that's the first webinar I'm doing on Zoom. So while I tried it before, I'm not sure I know how everything works. So let's see if the chat works. Okay, perfect. Hey, welcome. Good to see you. And I think we have a Q&A section in the bottom. I don't know where you see it exactly in the interface, but there is a place where you can put your questions. And I will save some time at the end of webinar to answer as many as possible. So feel free to go ahead with the questions at all times. Okay, so let's wait a few more minutes to Okay, we had one test question, so everything works. I will probably answer them at the end of this webinar, typing and talking at the same time. So feel free to shoot some questions towards me at all times. Yeah, so let's take a few, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes so that everyone joins, and let's go. I'm very happy to do this after some break. Actually, I think it's the first webinar I'm doing since the release of version 1.7. And as always, I'm quite busy nowadays working on internal stuff at Sylius and also with our customers and partners. So I don't have as much time as I would like to interact with the community. So this kind of webinar is awesome. Yeah, let me quickly check on Twitter. If nobody's lost, then let's go. Yeah, so the whole thing will be recorded and published. So even if you don't, if you can stay for the whole thing, then you will be able to watch it. We'll definitely publish it all over our social media and maybe on the blog. So don't worry. As you can see, I'm doing this webinar from my home. So all the Sylius team members are working remotely right now. And we'll see how long it is like this, but yeah. So I would be super curious to know who you are actually. It's an interesting form of interaction where I only see your names. Even less information than on Slack. So if you can shoot 1 or 2 sentences, what are you doing with Sylius? That would be super interesting, and also give me a bit more context for the webinar. Like, are you a developer, project manager? Did you work with Sylius already? This is always super interesting for me. Trying to make Sylius a marketplace, Romania, awesome. we have some marketplaces built on Sylius, and we're actually this year starting new marketplace projects. One of them is the end goal is to be a global marketplace, B2B marketplace. So it's very exciting and definitely interesting use case for Sylius. Okay, API solution. As checkout API solution, also interesting. Yeah, there are some even currently our own shop that's based on Sylius, for which we sell the developer course and plugins is using Sylius like that. We are going to change it soon, but it's definitely an interesting use case. Cool. I think we have we still have some people joining, but and I got a lot of messages in the chat, so thank you. I will definitely go through them and try to touch some of the points that you mentioned. And yeah, I suggest we start. So let me share my screen and maybe first of all, welcome again. And I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I'll be talking about a generic introduction to Sylius. So what is it? What's the philosophy and technology behind it? I will also cover some of the new stuff that we have added in the version 1.7 in the open source edition, both from the shop and admin perspective, and definitely touch a few technical points and the general evolution that is going on right now when it comes to technology. I will briefly show you a couple of Sylius Plus features that come in the commercial edition that we distribute, and that's one of the main sources of our revenue that we reinvest into the community building and open source platform and so on. Being a self-funded company, this is a big change for us in the last year, and a positive one, I would say. And yeah, I'll also try to touch a couple of points when it comes to the roadmap, to the things that we are working on, and curious to hear your feedback both here and on Slack, of course, after the webinar. First experience with Sylius in 2013, still amazing. Okay, that's very cool. I haven't been coding Sylius for the past, I don't know, couple of years actually actively. The team took over this part, and it's amazing to see some people from 2013 or 14 from the very early days of the product. So that's awesome. Okay, let's go. Brief introduction to Sylius. Let me share my screen. You can let me know in the chat if you see it correctly, but I think it should be fine. So Sylius, we are a team based in Poland, a completely self-funded company built. Sylius is being built by our in-house team of developers, but also engaging our growing community, which is an amazing part of the work that we do. And it's an open source e-commerce platform on Symfony. If you are a PHP developer or team leader, you probably know what Symfony is, but just to give you a brief idea, it's a PHP framework for enterprise-grade application, custom applications. It's one of the most popular frameworks, and very early, as you can see from the graph here, around 2013, actually I think the decision was made even earlier. I decided to build Sylius on top of Symfony to avoid reinventing the wheel. So the whole don't reinvent the wheel thing is very big for us. We try to, make a really developer-oriented platform that doesn't require a PhD in Sylius to work with it. So we try to use as much as possible from the ecosystem. I would estimate we have around 2,500 production stores it's a bit tricky. This is based on our update system data and sites like built with, but I think it's pretty safe and conservative estimation. We are now reaching the amazing point of around 1,000 installations per day through Composer. The total amount of installations of the main thing is over 500,000, and if you count all the libraries, all the components, this is going into millions. If you're into GitHub stars, then we are the top 3 PHP e-commerce on GitHub. Obviously, that's not the most important metric, but kind of gives idea of how developer-oriented we are. And we have 3,000 amazing developers on our community Slack, which is quite active and growing. So this is also very exciting. And apart from our company and the open source community, we of course have a network of amazing agencies that implement Sylius for their and our joint customers. We have now around 35 companies and growing quite rapidly from 15 countries. This month, literally like last 2 weeks, we got our first partner in Argentina and another one in Canada. So that's very exciting. But I would say most of the, let's say, Sylius business ecosystem is going on right now in Europe. So if we look at the technology itself, which I show you, of course, how it looks in a few moments, but generally, we believe that for medium and large e-commerce sites, because this is our target group, this is where we think Sylius gives the biggest value. Obviously, you can build a small shop on top of Sylius, but I would say this is efficient only if you're a let's say, technical user, like a developer who builds their small shop, or a company with a small e-commerce operation, but quite strong technical skills, right? So it's not a SaaS. It's something that you customize on, usually on premise, on the hosting of your choice or one of our partners. And yeah, it requires at least one really good developer to work on it, to adjust it to your needs, to integrate it with other systems and so on. So that's why we say medium to large stores. Where this ecosystem has changed a lot as e-commerce evolved, we believe in the more integrated and what we call best of breed approach, where Sylius is really a very important piece in the puzzle, usually as important as the ERP, or depending on who you ask, it may be second after ERP, but a puzzle in a much bigger setup where you can integrate the best-in-class CRM, the best-in-class PIM, like a Caneo or PIMcore and so on. So we have a lot more flexibility when building like a custom bespoke e-commerce application and experience for your customers. So obviously this is very unique per setup, but I would say most of the projects that are being started with the help of our consultants or our agencies are in a setup similar to the one you see on the screen right now, where there is Sylius. It exposes the API. There is some front-end app in the as the user-facing interface. Sometimes there is a headless CMS used, like Contentful, for example, or even WordPress with the API that manages content, while Sylius focuses on facilitating the whole e-commerce transaction and connecting all the dots. So this can happen through API or webhooks, but a really cool solution that a lot of projects use with success is message queue, like RabbitMQ. So let's say every time a price changes in the ERP or a new product is added to the PIM, the message queue is informed about that, and like a message is produced from PIM, and Sylius can consume that. Other systems can consume and react appropriately as well. And this gives you a lot more flexibility where you can actually change some of the parts of the system. Probably from this description, you may suspect while it's not always the best choice for small shops. sometimes we recommend to start on something a bit simpler, like a SaaS solution or WooCommerce. But then as the shop grows, as you need more customizations, you want to integrate with best and new solutions, or you want to have full freedom when it comes to front end and not depend on unstable modules and be limited by the assumptions of a small shop. This is where Sylius really shines and can help you build bespoke systems. So if we zoom into this main brick that is Sylius, then you have it's divided into 3 parts. So admin, shop, and API. These 3 interfaces are sitting on top of the core, and this core combines all different components like taxes, shipping, payment, and so on. So while I would say only small percentage of Sylius projects, mostly the very custom ones, use these small components individually and combine them on their own. This is an option that you can take, but usually the best practice is to take the core, maybe disable the shop interface if you want to build your own, or even disable the admin interface and just use Sylius as a headless API. So even at this level, you have the flexibility to just choose what do you really use. And if we zoom in even further, even if we go even deeper, we have the backend stack. That's Symfony. There is integration with Elasticsearch, for most of medium shops is an interesting option for proper search. We have Doctrine, we have Twig. So all the standard stuff that is probably familiar to you if you work in the PHP ecosystem. And we try to make Symfony developers feel like home. So we try to avoid coming up with like our own solutions and just follow the best practices of the framework and stick to the standard. So we like to say one of the advantages is that if you recruit a Symfony developer to your Sylius team, they can be productive from day one. Maybe they won't be able to customize checkout yet. Let's leave it for the next week, but they are able to work on basic pages and Symfony stuff that is in Sylius. All this is deeply tested, about which I'll talk in a moment. It's also ready for all kinds of cloud architecture. So really, thanks to Symfony, mostly Sylius doesn't really stand in your way if you want to go for a Docker and Kubernetes setup. We have shops that scale appropriately the specific containers they need of Elasticsearch, MySQL, or Sylius application. So this is really not standing in your way. There is an abstraction. There is an abstraction for all file system interactions, for example, and of course, excellent Symfony bundles to manage the checkout, the cache, and so on. So when it comes to testing and BDD, this is a big thing for us because we believe that the problems we see in e-commerce projects built with legacy platforms, this is not just about the technology. We try to have like a holistic approach, like a holistic look at the whole thing, and the thing is like e-commerce implementation, like greenfield implementation or migration. And while obviously the technology is crucial here and it can make or break a project if it's not flexible enough, we believe that a lot of the issues come from human communication, misunderstanding between teams, between the business and technology. And we have adopted since early days an approach called behavior-driven development that is able to an agile workflows. So Sylius being fully tested and testable for your team, and also coming not just with the code itself, but also a set of workflows, best practices, and recommendations. This really improves the whole, not just developer productivity, but the overall project efficiency. You're able to cover more complex scenarios using like efficient communication method between the business and developers, and you can account for specific requirements from different actors in the system, and this is really bringing great sylius in the end if applied correctly. So this is a very big part of Sylius philosophy and approach to products. I think it's safe to say that Sylius is the only e-commerce platform that is really following this open source platform that is following this innovative methodology. Yes, this is a beautiful graph from our new website. I installed it literally yesterday. The new website that is coming soon, so that's a little teaser. But I think this graph illustrates what we are going for with Sylius evolution and how we see a good medium to large e-commerce product. So you obviously have some concept phase. Thanks to greater developer productivity, the development phase is much shorter, but there is no, we believe in evolution over revolution. So there is somewhat an assumption that every 5 to 8 years you need to replace your e-commerce platform. But this time frame is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and this is just not really doable or very expensive and stressful and time and energy consuming to replace a big monolithic platform that is doing everything like CRM functionality, PIM functionality, and all the tricky parts of e-commerce that need to be handled. With this more integrated, more agile approach, Sylius can evolve. Your customizations around it can evolve as well. You can replace different systems that are integrated with it without replacing the whole thing and doing a big painful migration. You can do it step by step. And all this time you get fixes, updates that come to the open source, and if you are a Sylius Plus user, commercial edition as well. So this is our vision for how this should be done, and this has been already tested and seems to work, I would say, and Sylius seems to support this kind of workflows. But obviously, what's inside of Sylius is not the only thing that the ecosystem can offer. And here I can give you a quick, maybe not a sneak peek yet, but a heads up that for this quarter and probably the next as well, our strategy and our internal OKRs are all around Sylius Store. So together with the new website, we are preparing a new platform for buying and selling plugins, but also publishing free open source plugins. But even now, you can browse around 150 plugins available online for Sylius. And the big benefit of being based on Symfony is that the Symfony bundles are compatible. So some of the integrations, especially the technical ones, are already there for your Sylius app. Even if there is no Sylius specific plugin, the Symfony bundle is compatible. So where is Sylius really used in the wild? We have one of my favorites is Reiss from the UK. It's a fashion brand and chain of retail stores, and they are using Sylius since 2016, processing thousands of transactions per day in their peak times. They also switched to Platform SH, which is compatible with Sylius and reduced the costing cost for around 60%. I would say that it depends on how do we approach it, but really with Sylius, hosting is very often, I wouldn't say a no-brainer, but much simpler exercise than with legacy platforms, especially because of great performance coming from Symfony. We have an amazing German store called Dilidu that is shipping a lot of diapers in Germany through Sylius. They built the shop in 2016. We just recently learned about this product, but this is really, really exciting. And while Sylius doesn't ship with subscriptions inside, just to be fully transparent, it's not something available out of the box. There is plenty of products that have built with success their own unique subscription architecture tailored to their business model and logistics and everything. Another favorite of mine is is Hypebeast. This is a shop, one of the oldest shops powered by Sylius. Actually, I think it's still using very, very early versions of it, but it's very stable. It has been evolving since 2014. And yeah, let's see what happens next. I can't say probably too much, but maybe the story continues with the new sites and so on. So let's see. And our friends from France, Print the Clock, there is a case study published recently on our website, also migrated from custom solution with their internal team and help from developers in the community from a custom solution to Sylius, and handling really thousands of orders per day with a customized checkout for different product types and so on. So we have some printing as well. And this is an interesting example of headless shop, where the interface is completely separated from the backend. Teddy Bear, a French brand selling mattresses. I can show you actually some of these sites in a moment. Just let me switch. Let me switch the screen that I'm sharing. Okay, you should see my Chrome now. Yeah, so the front end of this site is built with Vue.js, if I remember correctly, and Sylius is sitting there as an e-commerce API behind the scenes. So whatever configuration you choose, or something needs to be recalculated, or you want to have some specific logic in the backend, this can be handled by Sylius, but the interface, the shopping interface is separated. So there's full separation of front end and back end thanks to Sylius APIs. So now that you have like an overview of what Sylius is and what's the basic philosophy behind it, I can show you a few things that are new in the version 1.7. First of all, our interface, default interface for the shop, was a bit confusing sometimes for customers and developers, because they assume that the previous version is the best you can really do with Sylius. As you can see from all these shops, most of them, if not all of them, have really custom interfaces and use Sylius for the backend. But still, Sylius ships with a default interface. And in the version 1.7, we have improved the homepage to include a few more banners, products, carousel, and just to illustrate that you can do a bit more than the basic list of 4 products that was there before. So that's a small improvement. Another thing that we have worked on for the new version is better emails. So while obviously this is part that all Sylius shops customize, we provide now a pretty sensible foundation with responsive emails that can be translated and configured for different channels. So that's an improvement that makes the developer job a bit easier in the early stage of the project where you customize this. Now, another thing is that sometimes you wanted to handle a scenario with a free product. So now this is possible if I log in. So for those of you who have never seen Sylius, this is how the administration panel looks. If I create a simple product, I'm doing this on public demo, so just don't delete it, please. Okay, that would be product with my name, whatever. We create a free product. We can check out with it and buy it even if its price is 0. This is useful for some gifts and scenarios like this. Previously, this is checkout logic was breaking, and it was not possible to handle a scenario like this or a promotion like this. So that's the main main fix that we did. There is some shipping cost, of course, but you can place an order, and this way you have also seen the basic Sylius checkout. On the admin side, we have made some first steps to introduce some really basic, let's say, reports or business intelligence to Sylius. Most of Sylius projects use something for the integration. It's either ERP generating some reports, or it's an integration like Tableau or Google, or deep integration with Google Analytics. And inside Analytics or Tableau, the users built the proper reports. But now Sylius has a basic sales summary chart, and in the upcoming sprints we'll be definitely iterating on that to show more data and filtering by dates and so on. There is also a list of payments and list of shipments which have been slightly improved, so you can ship with the tracking code immediately from the list, or you can view a specific shipment and know what has been inside. This is an improvement in the open source version. We have also made some small tweaks in the administration area of products, so you can navigate it in a much easier way to show the product in the shop, or edit it directly from the details page, and manage the variants while editing, or also go to the shop page. So this should make the navigation a bit lighter. And one of other improvements in the administration panel is that, given that this is part that is very often customized, this is the part where you manage different channels. You set the currencies, you set the countries that are available in this channel, and so on. Languages, we have reorganized it a bit and made a bit more space for customizations and new sections. So as the configuration section of Sylius grows, where you can configure different zones, currencies, locales, payments, shipping methods, and all the stuff that's suitable for international sales, we will probably need to do another round of reorganization here to make it even more easy to navigate. But still, this is an improvement, I think. And from technology perspective, so for those of you who don't really enjoy semantic UI and the stack that's behind it, we have made it easier to use Sylius with Webpack. So there is a documentation now how to replace the standard asset management with Encore and Webpack. Sorry, I got distracted a bit because there was something blinking in the chat. So yeah, Webpack can be used with Sylius, and we plan to continue improvements around this, because this was a bit annoying and behind the state of the art that we try to follow. The second thing is really a technical detail, but at the same time, we spent quite significant amount of time and energy to make our and developer and community lives easier. So previously, our BHAT scenarios were depending on classes, on CSS classes, and now all the page implementations reference data attributes instead of CSS classes. So it's easier to make reusable tests across different templates, and also cleaner templates without being forced to use specific CSS classes in order to implement BHAT scenarios and do end-to-end testing. I see some questions in the chat. Remember to maybe use the Q&A functionality, because they might be lost. The question is, means this we can now use own semantic config, because before was not possible. I think you could always use customized semantic config, but it was quite painful and you had to work around it. So with Webpack and Encore, you can customize some of the variables, especially if you use the experimental. So I don't advertise it here that much. It probably needs an update, but there is an effort internally to build a bootstrap team for Sylius, and probably this is something we'll also work on in the future. So then this is where the Webpack and Encore really shines, because you can actually customize the colors, fonts, and everything very, very easily. And build a, thanks to Bootstrap, build a pretty customized shop without building the whole interface from scratch. So this makes it even more efficient. And yeah, one of the things that I'm very excited about, and it's not fully completed yet, and probably needs a bit more documentation. But as you probably know, we have been using Sonata block events. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I remember the decision we made to use this Sonata block bundle. This was like a few months before the stable release of Sylius. And at the time, this was the best solution to really give templates a bit more customizability without the need to overwrite them completely. And now we came up with a new and simpler system that is replacing Sonata bundles, but is backwards compatible. So that's an important thing to know about Sylius, both from technical and business perspective. To stay true to our belief in evolution over revolution, we have pretty strict backwards compatibility policy, and we really put significant effort into creating interesting solutions to have this backwards compatibility, but still be able to add new things. So for example, in this case, the new event system is still calling the old one. So if you have if you have used Sonata blocks in the past, that they will still work, even if you update to the new version. But if you want, you can benefit from the new template system that's much simpler to implement, much easier to reorder some of the sections in the admin, for example, or add your own boxes in between the components of the interface of Sylius without the need to override everything. So I think it's really I would say a groundbreaking change especially for plugin developers, and in line with our strategy to build up the ecosystem of plugins, because there is plenty of functionality that we would love to provide in the core, but there are some limits to it, of course. So this is super exciting and worth checking out. We have already moved some of the interfaces in our admin to use these events, and next probably the plugins of community should follow. So in a brief overview, that's the most important news in the version of 1.7. Obviously, you can follow the demo on both two versions. This is maybe something that not everybody knows, that you can actually switch from the last stable release that I'm using now and switch to master, so the next stable next release features. So we are still working on the new stuff, and if you want to stay on the edge and install the latest versions, I think there is quite a lot of people actually using it. The new packages interface is able to track different versions. Yeah, so so as you can see, while this is always decreasing around releases, there is still a lot of shops being built on the dev master, especially new and more long-term projects. I think it makes sense given our backwards compatibility policy. Okay, and actually there was a webinar that I failed from technical reasons. So you actually never saw on a webinar how the commercial edition of Sylius looks, Sylius Plus. So I can give you a really quick overview of what Sylius Plus is about, apart from commercial services that we provide around it, like training, consulting, team coaching, and SLA-backed technical support through ticketing system. There's a couple of features that come with it. Around 1.7, we have focused mostly on improving and polishing the features that are already there. So the multi-warehouse system. So the open source edition is single warehouse, but for the more complex, more advanced international projects that rely on the Plus version, we have multi-source inventory. We have the return management. So you can manage the returns submitted by the users and have a couple of different resolution strategies. Like replacement, refund, repair, and so on, and manage that from Sylius back office. Or if this happens for whatever reason in your CRM or ERP, because of legacy reasons or because it makes more sense for your team, you can still integrate that system and give customers ability to submit these return requests and make Sylius facilitated. Yeah. So you can accept, reject them, generate confirmation, and so on. Another thing that's part of the Plus edition, and this part is the one that we have worked a bit during the recent sprints, because we have, if you look at the backlog of a Sylius sprint, there is a mixture of open source stuff and Sylius Plus stuff that is not going to the public GitHub. And one of the areas is that in the Sylius Plus edition, we want to better support more complex business setups where the customers needs to be separated between different channels. So you have the concept of customer pools. You also have a concept of business units. So if you're operating from multiple legal entities or from multiple departments, you can set up and configure these business units here, define the representatives, details for the invoicing and taxes, and have them assigned to the channel. If I edit a channel here, that's a customer, sorry. I can configure the business unit that is operating that channel. And I can do that currently because I'm logged in as a super admin. And what is also added in the Plus version, and something that we have actually worked on around 1.7, is having the ability to have administrators per channel. So as a super admin, I can manage, first of all, the roles of a specific administrator, whether it's a product manager, super admin, channel admin, and assign them to specific channels. So let them manage only my home branch of the business and not the fashion branch of the business, and so on. And these roles can be quite specifically, quite granularly configured what they can do. In case of a super admin, they can do everything, but if I edit a role of product manager, then they only have some specific permissions to manage the product attributes and so on. An interesting thing, and again, the flexibility here is that you can, as a developer, you can add new permission types to this permission system, permission tree, and have your own unique actions, whatever you come up with, also configured here. Yeah, so that would be a very quick overview and an update from the Sylius Plus perspective. I think we could do a separate dedicated webinar to this topic. And maybe before I switch to the Q&A, I can give you like a really quick update on our focus right now. So like I said, one big part is the Sylius store that we are building. I can give you, I hope Shimon, our designer, won't kill me for that, but I will give you a really quick glimpse of what we are building. So there's plenty of redesigns, but Sylius store is going to be really cool. That's a very short sneak peek. We are working with our payment provider partners and also, of course, packages to make it really the best marketplace for plugins, both from business perspective and developer, to make it easy, integrated with private package repository. Another big area of our effort right now is, of course, improved API with API platform. Some of you probably have noticed there was a hackathon between the team of API platform and Sylius team recently, and we are switching completely all Sylius APIs, building one unified API without the separation for shop and admin that's based on API platform. So it will support different formats, have more unified responses and actually standardized responses. And of course, all the good stuff that comes with API platform. But I think the closer we are to the release of this, the more likely it is that we will do a proper webinar specifically for developers to highlight all the news and changes that come with it. Yeah, so I think that would be it for another round of Sylius overview and introduction. Let me check the Q&A section and answer some of your questions. So the first question is, what is your suggested way of going multi-country with Sylius? Well, it depends on how what do you mean by multi-country? If it's let's say just Europe and a couple of countries in Europe and maybe not too specific stuff outside of Europe, you can definitely do it with a single instance and single interface of Sylius and rely on channels, zones, and currency configurations and so on. If you operate from multiple legal entities, then and need more granular permissions to for the users, for the customer service operating it from, let's say, UK and France, then maybe the permission management and business units functionality from the Plus edition can come in handy. If we are talking like global and, you know, really a lot of differences, then it still can be a single instance, but one solution would be to have different front-end apps per market. That's one of the solutions. But really, multi-country can be very simple and handled with actually a couple of clicks, but can also be very complex and require it would require a deeper look at the specification of the product and business needs. Does the backend interface support customer service order on behalf of customer service agents placing orders or completing orders for customers? Yeah, so there is a functionality for impersonating the user, and so you can log in as this customer and shop on their behalf. That's one solution. There is a plugin with that allows you to create orders directly from the administration panel, but to be frank, it's currently not up to date with 1.7. So if there is a demand into the community for updating it, then maybe we consider doing that. But currently, the project for which we have built it is not very active, so we didn't continue the development. Please describe. Oh, that's a question with questions inside. I'll try to maybe quickly touch some of the points. What plans to provide out-of-the-box integration with some more scalable NoSQL databases like Elasticsearch? So for now, there is a plugin from our partner Bitback that integrates with Elasticsearch. And alternative solution that is used by some of our customers is Algolia, for example. So a SaaS solution, a bit different strategy. So I can tell you that some, depending on the project, if I think about the projects we are starting now, I see where we consult or where we just audit the thing and so on. I see two strategies. One is more on-premise. So Sylius is hosted on-premise, ERP, and so on and so on, and Elasticsearch. But there is also this growing SaaS at the core strategy where it's ERP and Sylius, which is most customized and connects all the dots, but solutions for search are SaaS, and CMS is also SaaS, like Contentful, Prismic, or something like that. So that's interesting. So for now, we don't have a plan to include Elasticsearch inside of the core as a default, especially that maybe not all the shops need it. And we rely on external plugins and integrations. RabbitMQ, what plans to use MQ for? Is it message bus or does distribute workloads using consumers? To be precise, if we take Sylius as it is and install it, it's not really integrated out of the box. With RabbitMQ, we don't make this assumption that every project needs a message queue or like a message bus. But we rely on Symfony plugin for that can immediately connect to RabbitMQ, and you can set up message schemas and consumers and producers on both ends of whatever systems you want to integrate with Sylius. So right now we don't really use it in the core out of the box. Are you going to focus on SPA or are you still mostly focused on static HTML with Twig? Well, I would say the fact that we are building the new API is somewhat an answer to this question, that yes, we believe that SPA and PWA is definitely the future, but at the same time, I would say it still depends on the project. I would say it even depends on the skills of the team. So we do this before the trainings, and when starting a project, we do this kind of really friendly team assessment and discuss, what kind of team we have, what kind of team we want to have, with what skills. And this is sometimes driving the decision to go with static HTML with Twig, which is just simpler, more efficient for this project, and more suitable for the team that we have available. So I think right now, I would say the answer would be that we continue both. But we are not building Sylius SPA or PWA right now. We also rely on partners here. There is a pretty fresh integration with Vue Storefront. And I think this kind of answers the question 1.5 as well. Currently, Sylius has some performance issues, mostly because of excessive amount of queries to MySQL due to inefficient usage of Doctrine ORM. What is your plans to improve performance? Yeah, so I would say that from our experience, performance is one of the least reported issues with Sylius, really. There are shops with thousands of orders per hour, per day, and thousands of users simultaneously. I think it very much depends on the setup and how you use it. I agree that if you use the completely out of the box homepage, let's say, this can get a bit heavy, but we don't really experience it that much. And I think we would need to, you could maybe post on Slack like specific page or even piece of your setup or that is causing this issue, because it's quite hard for me right now to pinpoint which page is the problem and so on. But I'm aware that in some places Doctrine ORM is not used in the most efficient way. Probably it's somewhat result of I think correct now assumption then that a lot of shops that go to production with Sylius go with a heavily customized interface. So if you look at the homepage, this is really a simple controller right now, Symfony controller. So it's very easy to replace it or modify it. And we didn't really focus on optimizing it that much right now. Will you implement virtual products so one can sell PDFs of MP3s? To my knowledge, this is not not a topic right now, either in the backlog or in the roadmap. If you go to sylius.com/roadmap, you will see the most up-to-date items of the backlog that we work on, and some stuff that we plan on working next, and the part of the bigger vision divided into 3 columns. As far as I know, virtual products like PDFs or MP3s are currently not on the roadmap. You can sell virtual products. There is no problem. There are prepaid cards sold on Sylius and so on. But if you think about this kind of WooCommerce functionality where you upload PDF, click, that this is a virtual product and people can download it and so on, this is not part of the core, and not likely that we develop it very soon into the core. But this this kind of issue is what makes us build the Sylius store and improve it. We are now, because we build a network of 35 agencies that implement Sylius for the customers, customize it, and so on. And now, when it comes to both technology and business, we focus on technology partnerships. So we have plenty of open discussions with payment providers, shipping integrations, and so on. And the plan is to fill Sylius store with a lot of extensions and integrations, but also extra functionalities like this, or functionalities that are not in line with the product vision right now. Is it possible to buy inventory bundle only without subscription? I guess you ask about the Sylius Plus subscription. Not really. Currently, our business model and the way we work with customers assumes that you go for the whole package. Again, it's the same architecture and the same technology, and the same team actually that works on the open source core. So you can expect the same kind of quality and flexibility. So you can disable some of the things quite easily, or just avoid them or customize. But right now we don't have a setup like this where you buy just one piece of the functionality of Sylius Plus. This is not our strategy. Is upgrade from Community to Plus Edition simple, like installing extra features, or is it more like a migration? Depends on what's the state of your current installation of your Sylius standard. So far, the experience of the customers when it comes to upgrade, I think it heavily depends on how up to date and how the best practices were followed. So some projects upgrade very smoothly. It's a private package that you install through Composer. The only difference between a standard package installation is that you get a token from us after the agreement. So technically speaking, it's similar to adding more extra features, more modules. That being said, some of the issues that we have experienced and try to help our customers is, for example, Symfony upgrade. So Sylius Plus is right now using version 1.7. So right now our recommendation is first upgrade to the latest community edition, latest standard edition, and then the upgrade should be smooth. Otherwise, you're doing kind of 2 upgrades at the same time, and while it's not rocket science, it can be a bit more complicated than it should be. Are you planning to improve the UX of admin part? especially filtering orders, working with products. Now we need to customize the UI with JS to use the admin more comfortable. Definitely, this is part of the vision to further improve the admin interface. But I would say if we work on something in the next coming weeks, this would be still on the same technology stack, so still with semantic UI and grid and resource, and we will try to probably pinpoint the most painful aspects of the Sylius UI and improve them. But if you're thinking about the overhaul of the admin, then yeah, we want to evolve it further. But I think the first step is the API, because if we really invest time and energy into new admin, then I think it needs to be really state of the art, and this would require the API that we are building now. So I think that's the answer for now. What's the price system for Sylius Plus monthly payment? It depends on the project type. For B2C projects, it's GMV based tiers. So depending on the project size, there is a project, like depending on the GMV that is going through the store, there is a specific annual payment. I can tell you that we are working on a concept of a platform as a service solution for Sylius Plus that might involve a monthly payment with a bit different terms and conditions, but this is just a concept right now that we want to test, and definitely more suitable for smaller projects than the current customers. And but yeah, we will see, and we will inform whenever this really sees the light of the day. Is it possible to get only admin permission part from Sylius Plus? I think I answered this already with the inventory question. What's the situation with the plugins? Most of them was designed for 1.6, will work for 1.7. So the plugins that community builds are affected in pretty much similar way as customizations. So for every release, we have an upgrade file. We've highlighted the most important changes. The BC policy, like I said, is very strict. So there is really not that many places to break. And I would say so far, we didn't get a lot of negative feedback when it comes to how hard it is to upgrade. Definitely some work around like release and maintenance to upgrade composer files, release a new tag, and so on. This would be recommended, just a good practice. When it comes to compatibility, I think between 1.6, 1.7 should be very smooth. How would you like to assure the quality of plugins in the store? This is a nightmare. It's only a matter of community plugins, but also official plugins for payment providers. So it's a tricky thing. But currently, the structure around it is that we have one role and one person in it who is reviewing the plugins before they land in the store. For payment providers, like I said, official. Right now, there are some key integrations in development, and we are involved as consultants. So we are trying to use as many ways as possible. But I think my answer would be let's see, because I think if you have worked with Sylius for quite some time, you know that quality is at the one of the core values, and we spent a tremendous amount of effort on testing, on evolving the practice, not just of coding but around it, and we would like to inspire the community to follow this as well. With we have a plugin development guide, and we have an ongoing project to also build even more clear best practices around it and so on. But we will see. I think it's unavoidable that some of the plugins will be worse quality than the core itself. this will definitely happen, and there are probably better and worse parts of the core. Let's be honest, but I don't know how reassuring is that, but I would say the vision is to be more like App Store than Google Store. So we want to have a really curated experience, even if this means we cannot say we have 10,000 of plugins like our competitors. But I think here it's really quality and not just quantity. What's your suggestion on contribution to the project? Each bundle, main project, how should we make pull requests? Definitely on the main repository. There are some separate repositories with plugins for invoicing and refunds. So in these cases, you would need to make PRs on the separate repositories, but the main project, GitHub/Sylius is the place to go. And if you go to our documentation, then you have a contributing guide. Okay, so there is few more questions that I would love to answer, but we are running really out of time, and I'm running out of breath. So my suggestion is that I try to answer them in Slack or in some other creative way that we'll come up with after webinar, because to be honest, I don't know now what's the best way. But I will definitely take note of them and make sure that you get an answer for these questions, because there is at least 5-7 of them, and this would take us probably next 10 to 20 minutes. So thank you so much for joining this webinar, and thank you for all these questions. It was actually quite interesting for me to answer them and give these matters some extra thought. So thank you again for your time, and see you on Twitter, Slack, all our social media. We make sure to post the recording of this webinar online so that you can easily find it, share, and so on. Perfect. Thank you for being part of Sylius ecosystem, even if it's since the last week or since 2013. Stay awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.